And on to the details now. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has released a preliminary report on the June 12th crash of an Air India Boeing 7878 aircraft in Ahmedabad, revealing both the engines shut down within seconds of takeoff. Well, according to the report, the aircraft achieved the maximum recorded airspeed of 180 knots IS at about 080842 UTC, and immediately thereafter, the engine 1 and engine 2 fuel cut-off switches transitioned from run to cut-off position one after another with a time gap of 0.1 seconds. Well, the engine N1 and N2 began to decrease from their takeoff values as the fuel supply to the engines was cut off. The report also includes a conversation between the pilots on the fuel controls before the crash. In the cockpit voice recording, one of the pilots is heard asking the other why did he cut off, to which the second pilot replied that he had not done so. Also, the report acknowledged that the CCTV footage obtained from the airport showed a Ram air turbine, that is RAT, getting deployed during the initial climb immediately after liftoff. No significant bird activities observed in the vicinity of the flight path. The aircraft started to lose altitude before crossing the airport perimeter wall. Meanwhile, Air India acknowledged receipt of the 15-page preliminary report and said it continues to fully cooperate with the AAIB and other authorities. In a post on X, Air India stated, Air India stands in solidarity with the families and those affected by the AI171 accident. We continue to mourn the loss and are fully committed to providing support during this difficult time. We acknowledge receipt of the preliminary report released by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau today, that is 12 July 2025. Air India is also closely work with the stakeholders, including regulators. We continue to fully cooperate with the AAIB and other authorities as the investigation progresses. Given the active nature of the investigation, we are unable to comment on specific details and refer all such inquiries to the AAIB. Well, Boeing also issued a statement saying our thoughts remain with the loved ones of the passengers and crew on board Air India Flight 171, as well as everyone affected on the ground in Ahmedabad. We continue to support the investigation and our customers. We will defer to the AAIB to provide information about AI171 in adherence with the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization protocol known as Annex 13. And for more, we have our correspondent Meghna with us from Ahmedabad, and we have Mr. N.K. Berry, former regional aviation expert and director North Air India, with us for more on this. Well, welcome to the studio, sir. First, my question to you, Meghna. I wanted to know, the AAIB preliminary report raises a lot of questions after being out today. A lot of speculation is going around as to what might have happened. A lot of layers to be peeled.
Yes, absolutely. And Lipakshi, aviation experts, as we have been reporting about the preliminary report, that the switches went on from run to cutoff. Now, aviation experts are saying that these are switches that cannot be easily flipped. Now, there is something technical with these switches that these cannot be inadvertently flipped from, their run to cutoff or from cutoff to run. So this is something that is that the airline experts, aviation experts are suggesting that how did this happen, because there is obviously this conversation between the pilots that did you cut off the switches, and the other said no, I didn't. So this clearly, the conversation also paints a picture. How did this happen? Now the report also says what happened. How it happened, why it happened is something that will come in the final report. So currently, what has happened is what the preliminary report is clearly stating. Now, what we also get to understand with this report, obviously, the crash happened around 12th of June, and it is 12th of July, and this within 30 days, this is the first preliminary report that has to be submitted with all the all the protocols being kept in place. standard procedures being followed. There was a team that was there on 12th of June of the Investigation Bureau, and also there was the DG of the AAIB who was there with his team. Forensics experts also carried on their procedures, and also all the recorders, the CBR, the FDR, all was obtained from different. Something was obtained from the debris, the other was obtained from the rooftop of where the flight crashed. So all of this was recovered by the by the authorities and the agencies, and then it was kept under 24/7 surveillance, so that there can be no mishandling of the forensic evidence that had been collected from the from the crash site. And after that, it was also taken, the black box for that matter was taken to the AIB lab in New Delhi on 24th of June. And then all the obviously the investigation and everything took place. So clearly this preliminary report is suggesting what has happened, but how and why are some of the layers that will be probably more is obviously a subject of deeper investigation,
Right.
to see that how it has happened and why it has happened.
Right. So, we would like to know that, as we know that the preliminary report clearly puts early focus on pilots' actions and planes' fuel switch. From an engineering systems perspective, how is it even possible for both engines of a Boeing 787 to shut down within seconds of takeoff? Are the pilots also trained for this scenario? You would know.
Yes. Good morning, madam. This is because manually, if he has cut off the engine, then engines will immediately stop and again put on. So it takes time. I don't know, maybe flame out, or first we have to find out who was the pilot flying and who was the pilot not flying. And their voice should also be told who was telling why did you cut off the fuel switches. That all things you have to come to know from the report. So that hasn't come.
Right.
And ram air turbine is after the engine switch off, then that comes immediately to give the hydraulic and some systems,
Right.
so aircraft can be controlled. So these all things, have to find out.
Right, sir.
Still preliminary report, the pilot has switched off the fuel cutoff switches, and then
Sir,
on,
but
and
sir,
other pilot said, why did you cut off?
right, sir. Right. So, sir, the fuel cutoff switches transition from run to cutoff within a second of each other. Now, the report also rules out sabotage. But as of now, as there is no clue, in your experience, the big question now is that how can such a critical change occur due to a technical malfunction? Or is it more likely a human error or unintended input?
That after further report, only preliminary report is this, and further when they come to know, then only we will come to know, madam. It is, if the flame out was there at such a low height, and then he switched on and off, this also, to be find out by the investigating authorities. And this is very low height. This thing never happens. Only if we get training, they check with one engine cut off with the throttle back, not the fuel switches cut off. Fuel switches nobody touches once it is on run, because they are all the engines, everything goes off with the fuel cut off switches. These are made by Honeywell, but some AAIB given by the Boeing company also on these aircrafts.
Absolutely. Meghna, we would also like to know what has been the response from the Air India and government authorities since the release of the report today morning.
Yes, what we see the post on X by Air India, they have been clearly saying that the The investigation is still ongoing, so they would not like to comment on it, but they are cooperating with the investigation and are obviously standing with the families and relatives of the victims who have lost their lives in the crash. But definitely, as it is still a subject of investigation, the Air India has refrained from saying much or giving more speculation to the preliminary report. So there has been no such major or we can say a bigger statement made by Air India for this preliminary report, we can say as of now. But we'll definitely have to see once probably the final report comes, there will be probably some bigger statement or more important statement made by Air India. Just because it is clearly under investigation as of now, Air India has also refrained from saying much, except for saying that they are cooperating with the investigation.
Absolutely. Sir, we would also like to know, there is a computer called FADEC, like Full Authority Dual Engine Control, which controls the engines, fuel flow, auto shutdown, power requirement logics. Can you tell us about that, as it automatically manages the relight and thrust recovery sequence of ignition and full introduction?
No, madam, this fuel cutoff switch is the main control switch of the engines. Without that, nothing can be done. If that is off, then engines are off. If it is on, then engines are on. If you cut off, immediately engine go off. That is the main thing.
All right. Okay.
FADEC is a system.
Right. So, Meghna, with the investigation still ongoing, what are the next steps? And is there any indication of when the final report might be expected?
Well, first to answer the second part of your question, Lipakshi, the investigation report can be expected within 60 to 90 days. This is generally what we can understand from how promptly the preliminary report has come. So definitely the authorities and the investigation is going on in full swing. We can clearly see that how the preliminary report has come on time. So we can speculate according to that 60 to 90 days would be this would be somewhat the time frame in which the final report should come, looking at the preliminary one. But having said that, as you asked about the process of investigation, when we actually see, I would also like to throw some light on how the investigation has progressed till now. When we actually see on June 13th, I have some data with me which I would like to share with our viewers, that after the unfortunate incident happened, we see that the AAIB had promptly initiated an investigation. On 13th June, the team was formed, which was a multidisciplinary team, which was obviously there was international protocol followed for it. The team was led by DG of AAIB, and it included aviation medicine specialists, ATC officer, representatives from the NTSB, which is the National Transportation Safety Board, which is the government investigative agency from the state of manufacture, in this case, the US, and that is required for such investigations. So this team was constituted just on the next day of the crash, and the authorities had arrived on the day of the crash itself. Now, after that, the recovery and handling of the black box was done. Now, the cockpit voice recorder, which we call the CVR, and after that, the FDR, which is the flight data recorder, was recovered. One was recovered from the rooftop and one was recovered from the debris at the crash site. Now, after that, operating procedures were issued, so that, standard procedures, so that these, the evidence that has been recovered from the crash site is under surveillance, and there has been no mishandling done with the evidence. After that, subsequently, the black boxes had been brought to Delhi at the AAIB lab, where they were investigated further on 24th of June. After that, what we see, the data extraction that was done. Now, the team which is being led by the AAIB DG and technical members, that team has extracted data from the black box and downloaded it at the AAIB lab. After that, the CVR and FDR analysis has been done, and obviously this has helped to actually assure the sequence of events that has been mentioned in this report, the preliminary report which has come out. Now, what is the further process of investigation? But before that, what all has been taken into consideration? Now, the wreckage at the site, all of that, clearly forensic investigation has been done. The area is still cordoned off, as I said earlier, that in Ahmedabad, that Meghani Nagar area where the crash took place is still being cordoned. After that, both the engines that were retrieved from the wreckage have been quarantined, drones surveillance, drone video footage and photography has been done of the entire crash site, with the photographs of which we also see in the preliminary report. Now, what we also see, additional details are being gathered. Witnesses and the lone survivor statements have been taken. Now, the final report will contain more in terms of examination will be done on the additional evidence that has been collected by the forensic teams, and then the final report will come, which will just because we are examining the preliminary report as of now, we are seeing multiple layers and obviously speculation by aviation experts on what could have happened, but the final report is going to unveil more on why and how this has happened.
Absolutely. Also, sir, from your professional perspective, we would like to know what are the most critical technical clues investigators will now rely on beyond the voice and flight data recorders to determine the root cause behind the incident?
I think, madam, now we have to find out who was the flying captain that day, who did the takeoff and who was the PNF.
Right.
And who told that why do you cut off the fuel switches? He said, I have not cut off. So that all things will come to know, and all things medical and all, everything through those perspectives will come to know. Let this inquiry go ahead, because if fuel switches were cut off and on, in case of flame out only they can do. But he said, why you have cut off. All these things are very, very critical to say at this moment, ma'am.
All right. Meanwhile, we would like to tell our viewers that we were showing you simultaneously the visuals of the site as of now, as of today. Thank you so much for both of you joining us and giving us those details.